Welcome back, folks. Thanks for joining us again for our guest artist series. Today I have the pleasure of having Kyle Loconti join us. Kyle is a Shakespearean Delaware Park director, former stage manager, and dear friend. Thanks for joining us, Kyle. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. We're really excited to have you and hear about your side of things on Shakespeare Hill. So let's just get started, Kyle. How is directing Shakespearean text different from directing your traditional text?
In a lot of ways, it's the same. But to me, the biggest difference is making 400-year-old dialogue comprehensible to a contemporary audience. It's almost like translating a foreign language in some cases. So that, to me, is the biggest difference. We have to take great care with the text to make sure, first of all, that the actors understand what they're saying and why they're saying it, and then make that obvious through all sorts of different directorial and actor choices means to make it a story that the audience can understand.
I agree, absolutely. Shakespeare is so beautiful, but the language can be distracting. It can be a little scary sometimes if you're not able to decipher it. So that's a great focus as a director. Can you just talk a little bit about your just overall processes as a director? How do you approach the script? What are the first type of steps you take?
Well, whether it's Shakespeare or any other script that I direct, I pretty much approach it from the beginning the same way, and that is to become completely fluent with the play. And that means reading it and going back and reading it again and reading it again. Because I came to directing from choreographer or from stage manager, I think my approach might be a little different than a director who approaches it from a background of acting. Everything is very visual for me, and I think that's my choreographic background. So as I'm reading, stage pictures are presenting themselves to me in my head, and the physicality is presenting itself to me in my head. But also there has to be an understanding not just of telling the story, but every play has a structure, and that isn't even really the right word. It's the way the play functions. And I find that my background as a stage manager and all of the tools that you have to do in stage management to manage rehearsals and manage the process, a lot of those tools actually I still go back and do, and it's not because I'm not working with a fabulous stage manager. It's really because that's my way into how the play functions. If I do a breakdown of the scenes and who's present and who's absent, a stage manager would do that so they would know who had to be called on a given night for a rehearsal. As a director, it helps me to see how a playwright has juxtaposed this scene against that scene, and it sort of opens a little window into what the playwright may have been thinking and how I make the storytelling a little more clear.
Something that I've always heard is you can have a focus in theater, but it's so important to explore all those other elements of theater as well, whether it's design or, like you said, stage management. And I think that's just a testament, everything you just said, to it's really important to have all of those different ingredients, for lack of a better phrase, to make the cake that is a show. Shakespeare in Delaware Park is so lucky because we have people from all over Buffalo, from all over Western New York who come to our shows every year. We see little kids, we see teenagers, we see adults, we see people who are avid Shakespeare fans, we see people who have no idea who Shakespeare even is. How do you create and build this show with your cast and crew in a way that it's understandable to both the avid Shakespeare scholars and someone who's just heard of Romeo and Juliet?
That's a great question. And that's probably one of the things I love the very best about Shakespeare in Delaware Park, that we do have those audiences that run the complete gamut, and add to that, not just young and old, new to Shakespeare. In a lot of cases, it's English is a second language to many of our audience members. And so I marvel at the fact that someone can come and enjoy a Shakespeare play in a language that isn't their own. It's hard enough when it's your own language, much less hearing a second or a third language. You know, really, whether it's Shakespeare or any other play, our first job is to tell the story. You know, and that goes back to what I said earlier about making sure that I understand exactly what is supposed to be happening and why it's supposed to be happening, and to sort of stay true to what I believe the intention of the playwright was at the time that they wrote it. Now, we do a lot of stuff with Shakespeare. We cut it and we juxtapose scenes and we put, 1940s big band music into it. And we do all sorts of things, but at the core, you have to stay true to the story. Then my job as director is to trust the actors and capitalize on the creativity that they bring and that the designers bring. And as long as everybody is, aiming at the same bullseye, we're all trying to tell the same story, then you have a really good chance of making it enjoyable and comprehensible to an entire audience, regardless of what they're bringing to the Hill.
I agree with you. As long as you're keeping true to the story you're trying to tell, it's very easily relatable. As a director, and actually, if you could speak on it as a stage manager as well, how does Shakespeare in Delaware Park's outdoor experience, how does that influence your direction? And also as a stage manager, how does that influence how you manage the Hill?
That was an interesting question too. I had to sort of think about that. And I think it comes down to that you have to be willing to let go of control, which for a director or a stage manager, that's not an easy thing to do. And so in either of those conditions, there's a lot that's outside of your control. When I first started, I remember a conversation Saul was having. There was something that went on very early in the first act that in a regular theater, it would have been dark and moody. But in Shakespeare, it's 7:00 on a summer night and the sun is still shining and there's birds are flying around and it looks like a sunny afternoon. And he would just smile and say, well, God does the lighting for Act 1, which is exactly true. God does the lighting for Act 1, and then the lighting designer does the lighting for Act 2. You come back after intermission, and now you're looking at a stage with theatrical lighting and, sound. If the ambulance is going to go by on the Scajaquada, it's going to go by on the Scajaquada, and there's not a thing anybody can do about it. And I think that probably my most outrageous experience as a stage manager was the 2008 King Lear, when the streakers jumped up and ran right across the stage and then disappeared into the woods. And I'm in the booth going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And the people backstage can hear me on the God mic and they're going, what's going on? And Saul and Jim Malloy and I think it was Nathan Winkelstein are on stage in this scene, and this young man and young woman without a stitch on came running out of the bushes over near the casino, shot right across the stage, leaped off, disappeared into the woods. And I'm in the booth completely gobsmacked, and the people in the back never knew what happened. The audience was like screaming. I mean, talk about not having a lot of control. It was a crazy night.
That's live theater for you. So I'd love to take a walk down memory lane really quickly with you and just find out if you have a favorite Shakespeare in Delaware Park experience or your most vivid memory on the Hill, whether it be directing or stage management.
I stage managed for, I think it was like 14 years or something like that. So there were a lot of memorable moments and a lot of favorite moments. And I think of the company like family. I grew up as a theater practitioner that Shakespeare has been the home or the family. I think my favorite thing has to do with that idea of family. In 2018, I was invited to direct Much Ado About Nothing, and to my great joy, my daughter Kate, who is a fantastic actor, so I asked her if she wanted to join me, and to my forever joy, she said yeah, that she'd love to do that. So for me, that doubles down on that idea. It was an opportunity to work at a company that I love like my family with my family.
It's so wonderful to hear the word family associated with SDP, and it's something that I hear over and over again, whether it be from cast members or through audience members. And as someone who is fairly new to the company, it's heartwarming because theater is so much about family and community, and it's at the core, it seems SDP has kept that essence of family. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We heard a lot about the performance side, and it's really great to hear the production and directing side of it, and stage management, because the show could not go on without the stage managers. So thank you.
They are the heroes. They are the unsung heroes, and anybody who works in theater knows that and appreciates that.
Absolutely. I agree 110%. We are so lucky to have stage managers. Thanks again, Kyle, for joining us, and thank you all for listening in. Make sure to like and tag your friends. See you soon.